President Donald Trump has replaced the architect he hand-selected to design his White House ballroom. The Washington Post reported that James McCreary II, who for 3 months led Trump's effort to design the $300 million building, has a boutique architecture firm whose selection raised questions about whether it had the ability to complete such a large, high-profile project. One source told the outlet that Trump and McCreary reportedly butted heads over the president's desire to keep increasing the size of the ballroom. The deciding factor, however, was reportedly McCreary's firm's small staff and, quote, inability to hit deadlines, unquote. That is what supposedly led to his departure.
Trump has chosen architect Shalom Baranis, who has been designing and renovating government buildings for decades after the 9/11 terror attacks. Baranis led a $1 billion renovation of the Pentagon. He has handled projects involving the main Treasury building near the White House, the Federal Reserve, and the headquarters of the General Services Administration. White House spokesperson Davis Engel said in a statement, Shalom is an accomplished architect whose work has shaped the architectural identity of our nation's capital for decades, and his experience will be a great asset to the completion of this project.
The White House and McCreary's representative have both said that McCreary remains involved in the project in a consulting role. It's unclear whether McCreary stepped back from the ballroom voluntarily, according to the Washington Post. So the saga of the ballroom continues, Drew. I am not enough of an expert in architecture to know the conflicting or contrasting styles of these two guys, but it seems like, I mean, obviously this is a signature Trump project in all possible ways, and he seems dissatisfied, apparently, that the first guy, there was some question about whether that firm could hit the deadlines or not.
My favorite quote from this story and this whole fiasco is that the White House said that with the previous architect that they had been having a constructive dialogue. I don't know if that's supposed to be taken literally.
It's good playing words.
But apparently they're not.
Yeah.
Apparently they're not. Do people really care? Is this really important to the American people? We like talking about it because we're right down the street from it. I don't know if in Main Street anybody gives a hoot what President Trump does at the White House. He's certainly breaking rules, and he's certainly doing it in his own way. Like, stop me if you want to, if you dare try. But what is your take on, is this really an important issue considering everything else that's going on?
So I personally basically agree with you, right? I, on this show, have numerous times been critical of Trump for various other things that I consider more important. What I'm struck by, though, and I don't know what it's like in your social circle, but I've been surprised at the number of friends who have raised it unprompted with me. And it's not that they're necessarily, I mean, these are people typically critical of Trump generally, but like they raise that issue more than some of the other things, whether it's to do with ICE or migration or rule of law that I might think are more important. It does seem to have some emblematic importance to some people, I think.
I think you might have classier friends than me that are actually stand up
possibly
being invited to it. No, I haven't heard a lot of people that have a problem with it that aren't already upset at the president and think that everything he does is terrible. There's also this notion of, they've had these events where they have big dinners and big officials come to D.C. and they have to be out in a tent and it's uncomfortable. So I wonder, there could be some point to that there. Yeah, I just wonder what this is going to look like at the point where it's going to be so big that it's going to dwarf the main part of the White House, and it's going to be a huge construction site for time to come. But
yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's actually a really interesting point, because Amber and I had discussed this on a previous Friday, and one of our few points of agreement is that we like classical architecture, and we can see some of the buildings, including the Capitol, from our studio here. Apparently, this new architectural firm is less into that classical style and more into modernism and so forth. I assume you just can't do that at the White House because a modernist structure would be so incongruous with the rest of the building. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. Meanwhile, trouble mounting again for Pete Hegseth. Separately from what we're talking about, the New York Times has filed a lawsuit, did so on Thursday, against the Pentagon, attempting to overturn new rules imposed by Mr. Hegseth. We'll talk about that next. Stick around.